next to them, I'm asking. I'm
No,
sorry.
this is on Gilbert Drive,
It's all, okay.
which is on the east side of Lewisburg.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I thought maybe it was next to them.
It's, the map is
me see that.
upside down from inherent north and south directions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, mine's totally upside down, but I think you can, I don't know if you can change it on here. Okay. Do you have a motion?
Move for
Denial?
deny.
Do you have a second?
Well, approval of the nine.
Yes.
Correct.
Second.
All right, now, is there any discussion with the board? Michelle, any other comments?
No.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. All right, thank you. Number 3, consideration draft change order number 2 to the construction contract with Kiewit Infrastructure South Company for the water reclamation facility modifications and expansion project for cost decrease of $6,480.
So this is a kind of a conglomeration of, if you look in the attachments to this item in Granicus, it's multiple different field authorizations that we've given Kiewit, and they sum up for a total deduct of about $6,500. Different things that we've kind of bundled them all together. So it's some in the contract documents we had Kiewit investigate the lead paint and how that would need to be remediated. We did a cost escalation, so when we initially projected this project in 2014, we needed to escalate the cost to 2019. Kiewit gave us a significant credit for constructing some berms at the wastewater plant site that were gonna allow them to use some of their spoils from the demolition. In the berms, it's gonna hide some of the wastewater plant property from the Chestnut Bend area.
No, it's good. All right, do I have, all right, do you have a second?
Second.
All right, now is there a discussion? Dana, did you have a comment or question?
Nope.
You're good, all right. All right, any other? All right, all in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 4, consideration change order number 1 to the construction contract with Civil Constructors for the Henpack Lane Sanitary Sewer Project for an increase in contract time of 16 days. We got there.
Yeah, so there's no financial change with this to the contract scope. It's just it's a time. So there's the weather delay for some of the winter weather that we received. And then there were some, we had, as a department, had some difficulty getting the ARAP permit that they needed for the stream crossings. And so we were working through that.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Why 16 days? That's so odd.
Well, it was just the extension of days that we calculated. So it's not based on weeks. There was just a couple weather days in there. So when there's rain before and after, they can't do any work when the soil's wet.
So we may have to add some more to it. if
We
have
may
to
as time goes on, yes. So what we periodically like to do is bring in significant changes to the board as they occur, rather than waiting until the end of the project, and it's confusion because it's a couple months later.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 5, consideration of draft amendment number 1, professional service agreement with Hazen and Sawyer for the design of South Prong Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project for an increased cost of $255,000. Ooh. Michelle?
Yeah, so this is for the South Prong Basin, and the South Prong Basin, the interceptor that's running from Spencer Creek, which is up in Cool Springs, all the way out to what we're extending it would be to essentially to Carruthers, where it would catch all the new McEwen development that's happening. This would fall into that. So we initially had stopped this upsizing of that interceptor at the Walmart
Yeah.
on the west side of 65. So this is going to take it under 65 all the way to Carruthers, and then we'll have
Yeah.
development do that part,
This
the rest
is-
of the part to McEwen. The same interceptor would take care of that.
This will do it.
This is designed.
This is just the design of that, so
Design.
we're not
This
in
is the
construction
design.
yet.
Yeah.
So
need-
the initial scope of the project was just to the Walmart, and we need to extend that because of the influx of development we've received in the McEwen area.
And where does it go when it goes across, straight across over, stops at Carruthers?
Well, no, it'll extend all the way
All the way
up
to-
to, all the way up to McEwen area, but that'll just be, that'll be a smaller main.
Avalon? Yeah, I was wondering,
Gets
would
to
it
Avalon
be?
squared.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I was going to say, we have an issue up there if we don't do, yeah, okay, good.
So this will also ultimately relate to some discussion we've had initially with you and we'll be bringing back to you, is how we assign some of the costs for additional capacity in this system, as we've had development and greater density in development, especially in Cool Springs. So we've had to enhance some
Yeah.
infrastructure to do this. This gives us some background on understanding what's involved in
Yeah.
that, but that's a further policy discussion with the board that will be coming.
All right. Do you have a motion?
Second.
All right, any more further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye, passes 4-0. Number 6, consideration of draft amendment number 1 for the professional services agreement with CDM Smith for the water reclamation facility upgrades project construction service for an increase cost of $39,600.
So this is, I think you've probably seen Eric's email update that we received the additional funding for the $32.5 million for the SRF loan. So this is in direct relation to that. This is, we've had discussions with SRF, and we anticipate getting one loan for the next 3 years to cover that. So with that means that Emily, who is one of our subconsultants, one of CDM subconsultants with Lamar Dunn Engineering, is going to have to kind of submit some of that documentation, some of the, when we redo our rates, when we do kind of some of the O&M, to make sure that we're the SRF requirements. So this is her additional monies to do that
Right.
for the SRF
Throughout
implementation.
the 3 years.
Yeah, so this is for the loan. So it's, the way that the memo is written, it's 12,000, we anticipate her hours being $12,000 per loan. So if we just receive one loan, it's $12,000 increase. If we
All right.
receive the three separate loans, which require 3 separate submittals of documentation, that would be the 36,000. So it's a not to exceed that amount at this point. But we would cap that based on what loans we end up
39.
receiving.
So obviously the savings in this less than 1.5% interest rate, it far exceeds this little bit to
Yeah.
get this additional administrative support.
All right, may I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 7, discussion of possible landscaping of the roundabout Central Island at East McEwen Drive and Oxford Glen, Cool Springs Boulevard.
So,
Paul,
as you know,
Jonathan.
we're reconstructing and doing some improvements out there at the roundabouts to add the right turn bypass lanes and address some operational issues. One of the things we're doing in the central island of the roundabout is actually grading that up about 4 feet where drivers can't see through the middle of the roundabout, which you want them to pay attention to the merge maneuver rather than through the roundabout where they really don't need to be paying attention. One of the things we've worked out with our planning department, and actually Annette, one of our land planners, has put together a possible landscaping plan. This is not currently budgeted for the project. It's not included in the contract. This is something we wanted to bring to you guys first and see if you have interest in landscaping the roundabout, which again helps to enhance blocking the vision across the roundabout. It also obviously adds to the aesthetic of the area. So what Annette has designed here is the full landscaping plan, which based on the estimate she's gotten from landscapers is probably about a $250,000 initial investment with about $25,000 a year maintenance from a contractor if you have a landscaper do it. Obviously, our own staff could do that at some point in the future if availability allows for staff members. Another option she's also put together, this would require a change to the contract that also requires irrigation to actually feed the
Yeah.
landscaping.
Thank you.
She's also put together another option it's not shown here, but it's basically the trees themselves and none of the ornamental grasses or shrubs. It would just be trees and grass. That would be about half the cost, about $100,000.
Okay, first of all, we've got to have irrigation in that area, but the other thing is, this is a very high-traffic area. And we have the new Avalon mixed use coming to that area as well. And I think it's very important that this look good, but even more important than that is the fact that roundabout safety, when you drive up to a roundabout, you should not be looking straight ahead. So if you're driving up at 6 o'clock, you should not be looking at 12 o'clock. And I've been really concerned with this over here because people are always paying attention to that, and they're supposed to be looking to the right and the left to get into the circle and find out who's in the circle, and then looking to the left for the entrance. So we need something there as soon as we can get it, because it causes issues, and people have asked about that as well. So I'm glad to see we've got some higher trees in that area too. And I think the bottom part, if there's native grasses that we can put in there that are, not just this high, but a
Yeah,
little bit
these are higher grasses.
Because the way that's constructed over there, hopefully some of you have seen that, been over there, but it's up a little bit, so it's, it's not totally flat. And I think putting that on top would help.
We would incorporate that upfront capital cost into the overall cost of the project in terms of the CIP, and of course, we're anticipating a significant additional federal dollars to come into this project as well.
Exactly. So
So
we'll have
really
that
what
money.
we'd be looking at is how to integrate that into an operating maintenance cost going forward. And I think it's important right now to get the irrigation in place. That's probably the most
If we
time
do,
sensitive.
if we do want to do the more elaborate planting plans, you will need landscaping to, otherwise the smaller plants will not survive.
Yeah,
Irrigation.
The irrigation, yeah.
yeah.
So we
So-
would just have to change order in the
Well,
meter and
I don't know
the
if you
service
call it-
line.
That's the only thing we would change order with the current contract. We would hire a separate landscaper to do
I'm
this
not
work.
sure I-
To dig up you have to dig up the street to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Well-
We'll have to trench across
Well,
the
they're
street.
digging it up now.
It's, yeah,
That's
So
why this is
that's why
timely to
it's
do the
really-
irrigation.
Yeah,
And the design and the other stuff can really get finalized later.
Correct.
we would bid out the landscaping separately. We're just looking for direction. Yes, you
Yeah.
want to do this, or do you want to do the more costly or the less costly options Jonathan explained?
well, also, what are we expecting, of another 12 million?
Yes.
So we're gonna get a substantial amount of money, which means that 12,000 that we would normally have been
You've got
putting in.
capacity in your budget,
So we
capital
needed
budget to
to,
do this.
and that 12 million is gonna be able to help our other projects around town that we all need. So I would like to see, because it's a high-traffic area and because there's major development coming here, and Mars is right down the street and everything, and there's other companies coming, I think that I would like to see the entire plan done myself. We could do it.
Move for approval?
All right, may I have a second? Second. All right, any other discussion? All right.
So
all-
really what we'll do from that is we'll bring forward a change order to bring the irrigation over to the site.
Correct.
And we'll do
Got a
some
question
further
for you.
design and bidding on the specific landscaping
You-
down the line.
Yeah.
It's a sizable enough contract that you'll like to see the landscaping contract will come before the board for
Yeah.
Yeah,
approval.
you're
You'll
gonna
We'll
have
have
to bid
separate
that out.
contracts.
Yeah, we'll
That's
bid it
fine.
out.
We do need that all separate.
Yeah, it'll have to be bid out
We
separately.
have a project contingency, so we may be able to just work that in. We just got to evaluate it. and
All right.
see. As far as the irrigation is concerned, and getting the service line.
Yeah,
So
the
you may not
irrigation, I
see-
Yeah, I'm
know,
confident
because
we
they're
can, we can
out
get
there
that, we
now.
can get that in with
All
you.
right, all in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. I would like to ask that we discuss at the end, if you'll remind me, the crosswalks for that area, the raised crosswalks that we've got to get people. That's, believe it or not, a high-traffic area for pedestrians already. And when that starts, and I did talk to Mr. Parks yesterday, and he's planning by next summer to have the bulldozers in the ground. So, and then if he's doing the residential over there, so we'll talk about that later. I don't want to
Okay.
get way late on that. All right, number 8, is it? Yeah, number 8. Consideration draft amendment number 2 for the professional services agreement with the Alfred Benish and Company for the design of intersection improvements at McEwen Drive interchange with I-65 at a cost not to exceed $14,345.
So this was just additional right-of-way was needed, and so we asked our consultant to help us with some additional legal exhibits and some exhibits and legal descriptions. And so just a status update on the project is it's ready for bid. We're just working on that one easement with the Drury Hotel. Once we have that, we're planning on going to bid. And so we're looking forward to delivering that project.
Yeah,
is the
so,
interchange.
so this is in essence going to, when people leave Franklin Park, where Schneider Electric and the two office buildings are there, when they leave, we have a major pileup there a couple times a day, trying to get people out, because there's a single lane for them to get out and take a right to go towards the interstate. And when they do, there is a huge pileup of people trying to get in the left-hand turn lane to get on the interstate to go south. And there's one lane, and we've got the room for it, they just need to be restriped, and then some redesign at the intersection itself.
And the ramp, yeah.
And then the ramp going on, and you gotta work with TDOT to get that. Yeah, I get consistent calls on that.
And
so.
hopefully, come January, we're bringing forward a contract to approve the construction of it and
Yeah.
get started on that job.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we have the apartments that are behind Franklin Park there. They're open, and if people are going to leave that development and go on the interstate, they come that direction rather than going out. I found out because it's right there, and they come that way, and they're taking a right-hand turn on that. So thanks for bringing that forward. May I have a motion, please?
Move for approval?
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Passes 4-0. Number 9, consideration of draft professional services agreement with Alfred Benish and Company for the final design of the multi-use trail and bridge at the Park of Harlansdale Farm, an amount not to exceed $398,268.
Okay, so this is, obviously, we got a grant for this project. One of the requirements is that you have 2
Yep.
termini locations. As of now, we're planning to connect into the Chestnut Bend. We heard you loud and clear of making sure that that is public and we have full access to that. So with this scope, we're actually going to do 2 designs, and one of them is going to go up towards the school and the wastewater plant, the trail system up by the school. And we'll also have this, but we need to be moving forward on the design of it now and give us 2 opportunities. And we'll make the decision once we get farther along of to bid both of them or just one of them.
Two bridges?
No, one bridge, but the
2
trail
routes.
system will go 2 routes. One will go over to Chestnut Bend,
Yeah.
which we had always planned to build, and the other one's gonna go up towards the school through the wastewater treatment plant's property to connect to the trail system up there.
But that we would only build one.
That'll be up to the board how you wanna handle
Right,
that,
well,
yes.
okay, so where are we with getting the long-term lease with Chestnut Bend?
Friends of Franklin
Yeah.
Park is actually working on that for us and trying to negotiate that deal, and we're working with them, through them, to try to get that ironed out, but at this point, we
Okay,
don't.
so are we is this contract paying for alternate designs? One where we get the deal with Chestnut Bend and one where we don't?
It's paying for 2 different routes. Both would be beneficial to the city to have these trail systems in, and
Yeah.
would fulfill the grant process, and then
But are we talking about building 2 bridges?
one
No.
bridge.
No, you have one bridge,
One
2
bridge.
routes, and in fact, I
But the
think,
location of the bridge is the issue.
It would
no.
not change.
The bridge is on wastewater.
It's on
City
our
of Franklin.
property. It's where it goes after that.
Everything, the bridge and everything on Harlesdale would stay exactly the
Yeah.
same. It was
Okay,
all-
so
Not
we're
changing
not, we're not negotiating, okay, well, still, if we don't have public access long-term to the Chestnut Bend Trailway, then this project becomes a lot less viable, in my view.
We
Because
would,
you can only access it from
Right.
the north side.
we would look to cut out about 400 feet of trail, and we would go straight north to the school property and connect directly to the school trail system.
But then where would it connect to south? Well, I mean, where would anyone who is, say, at City Hall right now be able to access it?
Get on.
You would have to go up Franklin Road on the sidewalk that's built with Franklin Road, go into the park and then go across.
And that's a scenario where the public is completely denied access to that trail, and there's an agreement in place with the county that provides public access
But
to that trail.
but not for long.
10 years.
Well, okay, but, I mean, would you spend $2 million for 10 years
Well,
worth
so
of
what we're
access?
doing is we're designing
Gotta get it.
2 things, and it's not an option. My opinion is we should do both. Both to have an alternative, but also to
I'm
provide.
good for, I want to do
Yeah,
both,
yeah.
but at some point, I'm just going to say, forget it. We are being hung up
Yeah.
and delayed in making plans by, I don't know what,
Yeah,
but what is beginning to appear to be intransigence.
No, that's not true. And you're not being hung up. We're working through that agreement, And we're designing two alternatives to both deal with if for some reason you ever lost that access, but also it does provide a more direct access for, say, emergency vehicles, et cetera, to the site.
Okay.
So it makes sense. If you didn't have that concern at all, you would probably want to do this. You know, my understanding is there's pretty much an agreement on providing this access. Anyway, we have to see that, but I've seen a draft of that, and I believe that that will be forthcoming too. So before you get further along into the project, you'll see that.
Well, this is
This
400
provides their design.
This is 400 grand to design something that if we knew we weren't going to get the lease, the long-term access,
Yeah.
would we do different?
Yeah, let me show you real quick if I get the pointer.
That's good.
Thank you.
Show from the back.
So I'm gonna show you on this
Yeah, you're
arrow
gonna-
here. So down farther here is the existing parking lot. That's one termini that we have. The grant that we received took a bridge over here on the City of Franklin property and simply connected over here. Talking with our Parks Department, part of the master plan was also to have a trail system that came up here if needed. And so we're gonna design this. So the only part we would actually cut out if the board decided we didn't want that connection
About 200 feet of
would be a
trail.
literally 200-foot of trail. It's very little cost to design that part, and we would just build this section of it as, for the
Okay, so
for the
we
grant.
would do almost everything if we knew today that we weren't going to have a satisfactory resolution with Chestnut Bend, we would do almost everything that's being proposed anyway.
Yes.
Okay,
So for a relatively
Yes, sir.
small connector.
okay.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If Chestnut Bend does not come across like we want them to, and we went on and built the other trail, we would definitely have use of one trail at least for 10 years.
You'd have permanent use of our trail.
Yeah, it's our trail.
That's,
At that point, it'd be our trail.
Well, what's the county? What are you talking about, the county?
The county's got a maintenance agreement for access to the trail system.
The Chestnut Bend.
Yeah.
The Chestnut Bend
Chestnut
HOA owns the trail system. They've done a 10-year lease agreement
like
for
that, yeah.
maintenance with the county,
Mark,
Which-
turn on your.
which,
Right.
and my concern
your
has
mic.
been that we not make $4 million worth of infrastructure that hinges on a private party granting ongoing lease access.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But if Chestnut Bend does not agree to this, they will always have use of our bridge to get across there without our having the option to go through.
It would just be
Yeah.
inconvenient because we wouldn't build a direct connection to our trail from their trail system
Oh,
if they
that
didn't
wouldn't
agree.
matter. They could
Just
tromp
walk
through
across
the grass.
Yep.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
I think we need a motion. I don't think we had a motion, do we?
Move approval.
All in favor? Aye. All right, passes 4-0. Number 10, consideration of draft professional services agreement with CDM Smith and final design of Jordan Road improvements in a lump sum of $120,000.
This is part of our capital plan. This completes the design of it. We're not changing a whole lot about the design, but we need to get out there and check utilities. A lot with the development out there has changed, and we want to check all those grades to make sure before we go to bid that we have an updated set of plans and line items so we don't run into problems during construction. Happy to
Alright.
answer any questions.
Get it done. It's needed to be done. May I have a motion, please?
Move for approval?
Any other discussion by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Number 11, consideration of draft professional services agreement with KCI Technologies Incorporated for the Cool Springs Area Transportation Network Study in the lump sum of $290,100.
So this came about when we started getting increased densities above and beyond the Cool Spring study that we did last time, and we're starting to see significant levels of failure in there, in the Cool Springs area.
Yep.
And we want to have a base density to start approving from and evaluate what our transportation network can actually handle. And so that led us to getting to a point where we wanted to do a broader study of the Cool Springs area, and I'll let Jonathan walk you through the scope.
So this study will actually build a model of the Cool Springs area and allow us to plug as they come in, traffic impact analysis from developments, proposed developments in the future. We'll be able to plug those pieces into the overall model and see more comprehensively how a development affects the overall system in the Cool Springs area. And when we say Cool Springs area, it's a bit of an expanded Cool Springs area from Moore's Lane down to Murfreesboro Road, out to McHatcher Parkway. It's all of what you think is Cool Springs and a little bit more.
So you're saying it's failing?
With the proposed development in the area, in the future at build-out with all the developments that are in the pipeline, there are certain, many intersections that will fail.
And when we say fail, we're talking about a peak hour failure. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's for a half an hour, sometimes it's for an hour, and that's another thing we want to really sit down and work with the board on is what is your expectation of level of service that we're going to provide in Cool Springs? It's very common in a very urbanized area, which is what Cool Springs is turning into, to start accepting our level of failure during the morning, midday, or peak hour. Outside of that, you may not want to go there, but when we do the study, we'll look at the existing conditions, where we're at today, look at a projected scenario, and then bring those results back to have a conversation with you as to what your expectation is out in that area.
And this study will help us initially develop recommended projects for the area to help mitigate traffic concerns. It will also allow us to have policy discussions, whether we want to do access management in the area, any kind of thing like that, alternative intersection designs of how to keep capacity at a large level out there and not have gridlock.
So if you don't have, this helps you assess the impact of some of those options.
Correct. This would be a living tool that we would use ongoing. It wouldn't just be a study it once, put it on the shelf, and you're done. It would be a living tool.
Okay,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
all right, I'm just saying what people say to me. When we say we have this problem, and with the anticipated growth there, why would we approve more growth in the area if there's such a mess out there now? So what is your answer to that?
I don't look at it being a mess out there. I mean, during the peak hours, there's definitely delay, but in any urbanized area, you're going to run into that. Now, we don't want it to be failure 12 hours out of the day. And I think that right now where we're at is you're starting to see some of those peak failures at certain key intersections. And so we want to project the growth. And if you want to try, and knowing what your expectation is as a board, then we can determine the best way to try to control the growth. So when someone comes in to do a development, as Jonathan said, we can look at the impact that it has on the system by using this model and help set densities early on, right when they come in to meet with us about development.
Is there any way we can say no?
To what?
Most of them come in as PUDs, you
To
can
growth?
say no.
You always have that option. We're trying to just arm you with more information to make those decisions. And this kind of modeling helps you do that.
It also arms staff with knowing what your expectation is to make sure that we're bringing you good developments and working out a lot of those issues before it even gets to you.
Well, there's a lot of good development, but if it slows our traffic down, if it adds to our parking and all of our problems that we have, is it a good thing to accept the good growth even?
Just comes down to the level of service you want to provide at these different intersections. And that's what we'll work through with you as part of the study.
I would say, Margaret, another thing, and those are legitimate concerns and questions, absolutely. I hear you and people. Yeah, I do too, all the time. And I think all of us are hearing those things from people, but it's very complex discussion and a very complex answers, I think, that solutions, because when people ask us, what are we doing to plan? They want better planning, they want better strategic growth, better planning, smart growth, whatever, put whatever adjective you want to put on the growth. And this is part of what we need to do to plan. I believe if we do these studies and get ready for, I mean, sometimes we're always a day late and a dollar short sometimes, but, here we are sitting around in 2000, 2005, and then all of a sudden, you know, growth hits, and we've got all this, and your husband and a lot of other people worked very hard to get ahead of the growth and stay with it. And when people ask us, what are we doing? These are the things we're doing. We are doing this so we are prepared to handle the growth and to move traffic. And you guys are absolutely right. Every city, I mean, what would we do? Should we add 12 lanes to Carruthers? Should we add 12 lanes to McEwen just to address the peak traffic? And then during the rest of the day, you've got a lot of empty lanes. It's the same scenario that people say, do you build parking at the mall and you build parking at the mall for Christmas for every day? Or do you build it for Christmas in 365 days a year so it can handle the Christmas traffic? And, of course, retail, as we all know, is changing. But still, I think that we are going to have a lot of failing intersections and systems over there. But to what degree is the question that the board needs to be talking about. What degree do we want accepted during those rush hour times? I certainly don't want an F. I do not want an F. Now, would I accept a C and a D? Absolutely, all day long for rush hour, because if you look around at best practices in the cities where you have growing cities with challenges, you'll find that they have to accept a lower level at the 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock rush hours.
All
So
right.
I think that's,
I see
what we're
what you're
talking about.
saying. Now, in order for us to make these decisions, can we make these decisions sitting here around this table or up here, just talking like this? What happened to our plan to have a meeting, a retreat, or something that we can talk about
Amen.
what we want to see to answer these questions that you have? We need to talk about it. I can't just give you an answer right here across the table with these 3 other people, or the 8 or 9 up here. I think we're going to need to do more than that. I think we're going to need to talk about it and have a meeting and say, yeah, we want to accept it if it's good growth and we can handle the traffic and we can handle this. Okay, but we can't make that decision just sitting around
Well, and
An
that's
hour
what this is
meeting?
about. Talk isn't going to get it done alone. We need to do that, no question. But data and modeling helps us understand the impact of development. You can't just say, I feel like this is a good idea. We want to give you specifics that help you understand both the impact of development, the impact of specific things we can do that help you manage the traffic load. There are a number of scenarios that you can look at, but some of them you may think that's worse than the problem you're trying to solve. So we want you to be able to look at that. And this looks at not just key intersections, but it looks at the broader Cool Springs area. So
understand
this is
that.
exactly what you're saying you want.
the
It
study.
helps you, yeah, it helps you.
It's a tool in our toolkit
Yeah.
to be able to forecast.
But
Because we don't want to just
Right.
have the same discussion where
Forecast.
you're saying what you
word.
think, and it's important to know what you
Yeah.
think. But we want to feed it with data and modeling and some analysis that helps you understand the trade-offs of some of these decisions.
Well, I think our residents expect us to give good information. And and I'm for the study. Don't get me wrong, I am for the study. But after we have the study, then I think we need to sit down and talk about it. So when they say, all right, what are you doing? Then we will have
Right.
an answer for them and have something to back it up. And I appreciate that. So I move for approval on the.
Second.
Okay. Well, it's a good discussion, and Margaret, I can't agree more with you that after we do forecasting and get this information, that we probably do need to sit down and have a good, solid meeting on different sections of our city, and this will be one of them. And we might just want to concentrate on the different wards. We may have, 4 meetings and concentrate depending on, or put 2 of them together at a time. I think it's a good idea. All right, all in favor? Aye, thank you. Passes 4-0. Number 12, consideration of draft professional services agreement with Gresham Smith for design and post-design services for the State Route 96 Murfreesboro Road, traffic signal improvements in a lump sum amount of $268,118.60.
2 years ago, we submitted for a congestion mitigation and air quality grant, CMAQ grant, to the state of Tennessee, and actually last year we were awarded the grant, $1.55 million. And what we're doing with that grant money, what we intend to do with the grant money, and what we propose to do with the grant money, was the 13 signals along Murfreesboro Road from Eddy Lane all the way out to Arno Road. We're going to update technology out there, detection systems. We're going to look at advanced controllers, upgraded signal heads where we can, so flashing yellow arrows if possible, any kind of operational improvements, but also along with that is some technology improvements to kind of set ourselves up for the future for connected vehicles as they're coming along, but also to get automated traffic signal performance measures. And what those do is take the detection and give us live data back so we can actually make adjustments to the system based on live data, not having to go out there and study something and take several months to come back and look. So this is kind of a holistic approach to updating that corridor technology-wise. So far, it's 100% funded by the CMAQ grant. The only thing that would not be 100% funded by the CMAQ grant are any kind of necessary ADA changes.
Well,
Move for approval.
Second.
all right, any other discussion? Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor? Aye. All right, passes 4-0. Number 13, we have capital project status reports for October.
Highlight a few, the 96 trail, we're waiting on some final approvals from CDOT. We're anticipating those in the very short term to hopefully go to bid over November, December timeframe and get that awarded as soon as we possibly can. At this point, we're just waiting on TDOT's notice to proceed for construction. The West Haven Boulevard traffic signals on your next work session for approval or for BOMA, and we're very excited to start that. We'll issue a notice to proceed pretty much following that meeting. We're also, just to note, we're going to get all the work done, but the traffic signal poles, it takes a long time for the manufacturers to deliver those, so they'll be the last thing that goes in. But we're going to issue the notice to proceed to start anyways to get all the utility and grading work done as quick as we can. So we're excited to be moving that project forward. The other project to highlight is the Municipal Services Complex out at the solid waste facility. The contractors doing a great job out there. They've ripped out a lot of the asphalt already. They've proof rolled and preparing to pour concrete, but Civil is doing an outstanding job there so far. So we're making a lot of progress and we'll continue to work hard. Happy to answer any questions.
Have we been able to go out for right away on McEwen 4?
TDOT is reviewing the plans. I need to get an estimate from them as to when we can proceed, and we're working to line our appraisers.
Surveyor up first.
A surveyor up right now to get out there to survey. We're getting a proposal now, and they're going to stake the right-of-way, and the appraisals are getting lined up to follow the staking of the right-of-way. So we're very, very close. We're just need to check in with TDOT to get a date from them.
We had another accident on McEwen the other night in the rain. I was actually going to ask, maybe we could have some police presence over there when it rains or something. We're just, every time it rains, we seem to have another accident over there. That's side note. But do you think we'll be out to get the appraisal will be within November started? Because it just seems TDOT is always looking at this. I don't mean to get on your case, guys, but there's still, we are at their mercy to get back to us. I understand that.
Truly talking December, January timeframe because the survey, you have to stake every single easement out there and meet with the property owners. I think your December, January timeframe to do that work.
Will you be meeting individually with those property owners, or?
Part of the process is for the appraiser to meet with those
Okay.
individuals, so the appraiser will do that. We don't do it just because we let the appraiser do their job.
But he or she cannot do that until we get released from TDOT.
Correct. And we're working very hard to get
Just-
it done.
Give me that phone call the moment you got it, okay, so I know? Okay, thank you. And then the roundabout improvements are coming along, I guess. We have any issues with that, or are we okay?
So far, we're still working, they're working to put storm sewer in right now. It's been
Yeah, I
a little
saw
bit,
that.
it's been a little slow because of the rock they're hitting on the east side of the roundabout.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. Okay. All right. Anything else, guys?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The municipal complex on Century. Can you tell me, just in 10 words or less, what you're talking about? What needs to be done out there?
Massive pavement replacement and some utility upgrades.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You did it. 10 words or less.
9 words.
And I would, and I would just say, I don't know if you have an update, we'll talk about that later, but a time when the roundabout consultant expert will come in from Atlanta to talk to the board and some representatives from the community to get us educated on the function of the roundabout. And there's a lot of detail to that, so.
Yeah, with the Liberty and Mallory project moving forward, we wanted to bring in our roundabout expert who we've hired to do a review of the design to make sure that we get it right. He recommended that he come in and just, I know we've done it before, we did this with Columbia Avenue, but just to give a overall update on roundabouts, the benefits associated with them, and give the board a chance to ask questions as it relates to that project. But we're still right now working on scheduling a time. It won't be this first November meeting, but I'm still trying to get them lined up to when they can get up here.
Yeah, and we had talked, I'd been in that meeting, and we talked about the functionality of it, which has got to be right. He has done these all over the United States, and I asked him about being near a school, and he said yes. And so the raised pedestrian crosswalks with the flashing beacons is going to be extremely important at that area, so we have safe crosswalks there. The functionality, the also functionality of the traffic going south on Royal Oak, so London Lane and those people can get out. And then the functionality between the two roundabouts and that. So I think all that's going to be really important, since we're not roundabout experts and we're not engineers, so we need that. Thank you very much for getting that done. All right, next one is water and sewer, sanitary sewer projects. Any highlights there, or any questions on those?
I'll just go over a couple. So for the reclamation facility right now, so
Right.
things are moving along. Our equalization tank has been poured, the walls are up, so they're forming the roof right now, and then they're gonna start wrapping the outside of the tank, so that's pretty exciting. The headworks structure is being constructed. For the solids building, we had some concrete that was poured that was out of spec. So we've reached a conclusion with Kiewit that they're gonna remove that concrete and all the rebar and all the conduit that's underneath that and replace that. We came to that conclusion Monday, so
In which space of that?
that's the solids building.
Okay,
One of the, so kind of the solids process that's happening kind of independent of the rest of the plant. So that's, if you have any specific questions on that. I'd like to, as a side note, I'd like to schedule a tour for you guys to come out and see the construction as part of
Yeah,
the
it'd be good
continuing
to see it.
education that you need to keep getting.
Yeah, and a certificate to boot.
Right.
yeah,
Be good to see it.
So be looking for some dates on that too.
don't leave that out.
But I'll also talk about, so Holiday Court, so the pump station construction, the upgrade that we're going to do from the can station to an actual submersible station. We're going to plan on bidding that within the next, advertising it within the next month. So that's in our budget this year.
Okay.
And then the reclaim line from Red Wing down to Berry Farms, that is one aspect of the project to increase the pressures down to Berry Farms is underway of being, our crews, our service division crews are putting that line in right now.
Anything else? And the board have any questions?
I just have one
Randy?
question. How are we on the reservoir as far as our level of water? I know that we're out of the drought, I would assume, but
Well,
Wait.
our,
We will be this weekend.
so the lake is still pretty low. The lake is not raising as much as we'd like, even though we've had the rain, just because of the demands during the day, and we can really only increase the level in the lake at night when we can pull. So, all of the finished water reservoirs are doing fine though.
okay, but we should probably recover quite a bit maybe after this weekend? Maybe? Fingers
Hopefully.
crossed? Okay.
Fingers crossed.
All right,
We're still able,
We're
we're
in a
still
better
pulling from
position
the
than we
river.
were. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're able to get from the river. So,
all right. Anything else? Do I have a motion? Motion to? Right. Do you have a second?
I have a second.
Yeah.
You can't make the motion and second it at the same time.
All in favor, adjourning? Aye. Meeting's over. Listen.